Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving deep into a topic that's changing everything: artificial intelligence in our schools. How is it really shaking up the way we teach and learn? Let's get into it.
So, to really get why AI in education is such a massive deal, we first have to talk about a challenge that's, well, as old as the classroom itself. I mean, really think about that for a second. In any classroom, you've got some kids who are flying ahead, some who are struggling to keep up, and a whole bunch somewhere in the middle. How on earth can one person cater to all of those unique needs all at once?
This right here is the fundamental problem with standardized education. For decades, people have been trying to crack this nut, to find a way to break out of that one-size-fits-all box. And that long search? Well, it's led us straight to the doorstep of AI.
Now, this idea of using tech to make learning personal, it's not as new as you might think. It actually has a pretty long and fascinating history, starting with what you could call the world's very first smart tutors. You can see this wasn't some overnight revolution. It started way back in the 70s with early systems like Plato. Then, as we entered the 21st century, we got platforms like Newton that started using data to make learning paths that could actually adapt. And that whole evolution has brought us to today, where things are getting really, really interesting.
So what does this new era of AI in the classroom actually look like on the ground? What are the tools that are being used right now? Let's open up the modern AI teaching toolkit.
Okay, the heart of all this is something called Intelligent Tutoring Systems, or ITS. The dream here is simple but huge: to give every single student their own personal, one-on-one tutor that's available 24/7, giving them feedback right when they need it. Now, the engine that powers these tutors, that's usually an adaptive learning platform. The best way to think about these is like a personal trainer for your brain. They're not just throwing information at you. They're constantly watching your progress and tweaking the difficulty to keep you in that sweet spot where you're challenged but not overwhelmed. So how does it actually pull this off? Well, it's a really elegant feedback loop. You, the student, do an activity. The AI is watching, analyzing your performance to figure out what you've mastered and where you're stumbling. Then, and this is the magic part, it adjusts the next thing you see, in real time, creating a learning path that is completely unique to you. But it's not just about what you learn, it's also about how you learn it. And that brings us to VR and augmented reality, which are total game changers. Forget just reading about ancient Rome in a textbook. Now you can literally walk through its streets. Instead of just trying to picture a chemical reaction, you can do it yourself in a virtual lab where nothing can blow up. It's learning by doing on a whole new level.
And the tech that makes a lot of these tools feel so human? That's natural language processing, NLP. This is what lets an AI understand what we're saying or typing and respond in a way that feels natural. It's why a language learning chatbot can feel more like you're practicing with a friend than just using a piece of software. And of course, how do you keep students motivated through all this? That's where gamification comes in. We all know how addictive games can be, right? Well, AI takes this to another level by creating challenges and rewards that are personalized, turning the whole learning process into a journey that you actually want to continue.
Okay, so we have this incredible new set of tools, but just having the tools isn't enough. We have to talk about how we use them. And that brings us to the really big picture: the promise, the potential dangers, and the actual art of teaching with AI.
Because what we're looking at is a massive shift in what it means to be a teacher. For centuries, the teacher was the sage on the stage, the main source of knowledge. Now, that's changing. The new role is the guide on the side. They're becoming facilitators, tech orchestrators, and the human guides who help students navigate their own unique learning journeys. But this transition comes with some really serious questions. Huge questions, actually. Will these amazing tools be available to every student or just the wealthy ones? What happens to all the incredibly sensitive data being collected on our kids? How do we make sure the algorithms themselves aren't biased? And maybe the biggest question of all, how do we get all the benefits of this automation without losing that essential, irreplaceable human connection that a great teacher provides?
This quote from the source really nails it. You can't just drop this technology into a classroom and walk away. It demands a thoughtful synthesis. In other words, the tech and the teaching methods have to evolve together, hand in hand. So with all that in mind, what's the path forward? How do we navigate these tricky waters to actually build the future of learning we want to see?
Well, there's a pretty clear roadmap emerging. First, we need rock-solid ethical rules for data and privacy. We absolutely have to invest in training our teachers so they feel confident and prepared. We've got to iron out the technical bugs, and critically, we have to be relentless about finding and fixing bias in these systems to make sure they're fair for every single learner.
And that really brings us to the final question. The technology itself doesn't have an agenda. Its impact, whether it's good or bad, comes down to the choices that we make. So the question we're all left with is this: are we going to use AI to build classrooms that are more equal, more personal, and more human? Or will we let it make the gaps that already exist even wider? The future of learning? Well, it's really up to us.